Mr. Vickers. I'm going to leave aside the fact that this is all entirely hypothetical at this point, because Israel has seized the Rafah crossing in absolute breach of the Camp David Accords, which have the power of international law, having been adopted by the Security Council. The Philadelphia corridor is completely sealed, and this is the fourth day in a row where exactly none, food or medical aid has entered Gaza. And therefore, even if the British government moved their show to the border, no Palestinian would be able to get biometric tests anyway. I congratulate the Honourable Member for Lancaster in securing this debate and commiserate with the Minister who's going to have to try and answer the literally unanswerable, to defend the literally indefensible. Sometimes one detests a government policy, but can understand why they're doing it. It is impossible to fathom why the government is resisting the entirely inexpensive demand that this debate, this petition, is asking for. Hundreds, 391 of the signatories are my constituents in Rochdale, who are always looking for ways to demonstrate their support for the Palestinian cause, as you'll know, Mr. Vickers. And I declare the interest that one of my parliamentary staff is one of those trying to get their family out of Gaza to no avail. The attendance at this session today is evidence of the massive support there is in the country for the plight of the Palestinian people to be at least palliated by our government, and it could be done so inexpensively, I literally cannot fathom why the Minister is going to rise and resist the demands made by the Honourable Lady, the Member for Lancaster. Leaving aside all the historical reasons why they should, the fact that it was in this very building that the entire Palestinian tragedy was authored, when, on behalf of one people, our government promised to a second people the land that belonged to a third people. You would have thought that that would have been a matter of historical guilt for our government, that they might want to in some way mitigate. Leaving aside the fact that hundreds of our soldiers, police officers, civil servants, staff of this very house were murdered in the King David Hotel. Our soldiers left hanging by piano wire in the orange groves of Jaffa, booby-trapped. Shouldn't the government have a scintilla of guilt, responsibility for what has happened to the Palestinian people in the past and in the last 7 months? It isn't true that our military aid to Israel is minuscule. If you define it by completed pieces of ordnance, maybe. But our components are in most of Israel's bombs and rockets that are falling down on these poor people in Gaza, defenseless prisoners in what the Prime Minister, then David Cameron, now the Foreign Secretary, described as the largest open-air prison in the world. And he went on to say it must not be allowed to remain so. That was in 2010. Now he's the Foreign Secretary in 2024. He turns his face away from the people in that prison camp that he said must not be allowed to remain so. And it isn't just ordnance. We have flown 200 missions from our sovereign base in Akrotiri in Cyprus. Who knew that we have a sovereign base in independent Cyprus, a European Union country, an allied country, but we have the right to fly whatever we like out of that sovereign base. And 200 times we have flown spy missions over Gaza for the edification of Netanyahu and his gang in power in Tel Aviv. So our contribution to this massacre is very significant, both historically and contemporaneously. And what we're asking here, people from all sides, some of them actually, literally, capital F, friends of Israel. But they're all here asking for one small thing, that you at least allow people who are citizens here, who are contributing here, to get their old mother out of Gaza, rather than actually see her, perhaps, on their telephone, being torn to shreds by a bomb that wouldn't have been as effective if it weren't for the components being given from British factories and targets being assisted by RAF jets flying out of Akrotiri. For goodness sake, Minister, have some political nous. There's millions of people in Britain want you to do something. This you can do with a stroke of a pen, and it won't cost you anything in your popularity stakes with Netanyahu in Tel Aviv.